Money, it's something we all use every single day. We earn it, we save it, we spend it. But how often do we stop to ask, what is money really? And perhaps even more importantly, is it working the way it's supposed to? Today, we're going to explore those questions and uncover why cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin may not just be the money of the future, but the next evolution of money itself. Let's rewind thousands of years to a time when money didn't exist. Back then, if you wanted something, you had to trade for it. Need wheat? Maybe you'd offer your neighbor a few chickens. But this system called bartering was messy. What if the person with the wheat didn't need your chickens? What if what you had wasn't divisible or portable? That's why humans came up with a brilliant solution: money. First, it was gold and silver. They were rare, durable, and universally desired, the perfect tools to store and exchange value. Over time, these metals became standardized into coins. For centuries, money was simple. It was tangible, valuable, and reliable. But then, as societies grew more complex, carrying bags of gold and silver became inconvenient. And that's when everything started to change. In the early days of America, gold and silver were still king. But as banks and governments became more organized, paper money entered the scene. These early dollars were backed by precious metals. For every paper bill you held, there was gold sitting in a vault somewhere, guaranteeing its value. It was a promise. If you didn't trust the paper, you could trade it for the real thing. It worked for a while. But promises are only as good as the people making them. Wars, economic crises, and government spending led to a critical turning point in 1971, when President Nixon officially ended the gold standard. From that moment on, the US dollar became what we call fiat money. It wasn't backed by gold or silver anymore, only by trust in the government. And here's where things get tricky. With fiat money, governments can create as much as they want. And they do. Need to fund a war? Print more money. Need to bail out banks? Print more money. Need to stimulate the economy during a crisis? You guessed it, print more money. This constant printing leads to inflation, when the money in your pocket buys less and less over time. And while inflation might seem like a slow drip, over decades, it adds up. Your savings lose value. Your purchasing power shrinks. In some countries, like Venezuela or Zimbabwe, it's gotten so bad that their currencies have collapsed entirely. And even in places like the US, where the dollar is still strong, cracks in the system are starting to show. Trillions of dollars have been printed in the last few years alone, backed by nothing. Debts are higher than ever, causing people to be in debt for a lifetime. And many people are starting to ask, how long can this system hold? Now, imagine a different kind of money, one that governments can't print at will, one that doesn't lose value over time because of inflation, one that exists purely in the digital world, immune to the problems of paper money. That's the promise of Bitcoin. But before we dive into why it might be the currency of the future, let's pause. To truly understand Bitcoin, we first need to understand what makes it so revolutionary and what makes it different from the system we've blindly relied on for centuries. To understand why Bitcoin is so revolutionary, we need to take a closer look at how it works. Imagine a digital system where no single person, company, or government has control. That's Bitcoin. It was created in 2009 by an anonymous figure known as Satoshi Nakamoto, who had one radical idea: that money should be decentralized. What does that mean? It means there's no central bank or authority in charge of Bitcoin. Instead, it's powered by something called blockchain technology. Picture a digital ledger, like a notebook, that keeps track of every Bitcoin transaction ever made. But here's the twist. Instead of this notebook being locked away in a bank vault, it's shared across millions of computers around the world. Every time someone sends or receives Bitcoin, that transaction is verified by these computers through a process called mining. Mining isn't about digging in the ground. It's about solving complex mathematical problems. These problems ensure that every transaction is legitimate, and once it's verified, it's added to the blockchain, the permanent record. This makes Bitcoin incredibly secure because altering the blockchain would require hacking every computer in the network simultaneously, something that's practically impossible. Unlike the US dollar, which can be printed endlessly, Bitcoin has a fixed supply. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. That's it. No more can ever be created. This scarcity is what makes Bitcoin similar to gold, and why some people call it digital gold. It's designed to be resistant to inflation because you can't just make more when you want. But Bitcoin's design doesn't just solve the inflation problem. It also addresses another critical issue: trust. When you use traditional money, you're relying on banks, governments, and payment processors to handle your transactions. With Bitcoin, there's no middleman. If you want to send money to someone on the other side of the world, you can do it directly, instantly, and securely, without needing permission from anyone. This idea of permissionless transactions is powerful, especially for people living in countries where the banking system is broken or corrupt. In many parts of the world, people don't have access to bank accounts or face oppressive financial controls. Bitcoin offers them a lifeline, a way to store and transfer value without interference. Of course, Bitcoin isn't perfect. Its price can be volatile, rising and falling dramatically in short periods. Some critics argue it's more of a speculative asset than a reliable currency. Others point to its environmental impact, as the mining process consumes significant amounts of energy. But despite these challenges, Bitcoin continues to grow in popularity, with more people and businesses adopting it every year. It's not just individuals jumping on board either. Major companies, investment funds, and even governments are starting to take Bitcoin seriously. Countries like El Salvador have gone as far as making Bitcoin legal tender, allowing it to be used for everyday purchases. This shift marks the beginning of a larger transformation, one where Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies could fundamentally change how we think about money. So, what does all of this mean for the future of money? To answer that, we need to consider a world where Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies play a much larger role. Imagine a global financial system that isn't tied to borders, governments, or traditional banks. With Bitcoin, someone in a rural village without access to a bank can still participate in the global economy. They can save, send, and receive money without needing permission from a financial institution. For billions of people, this could be life-changing. Bitcoin also challenges the idea that governments should have complete control over money. Today, the value of your savings can be eroded by inflation, and your access to funds can be restricted during political or economic turmoil. Bitcoin offers an alternative, a way to store your wealth in something that can't be manipulated or frozen. But this vision isn't without its challenges. To truly become the currency of the world, Bitcoin needs to overcome several obstacles. Its price volatility must stabilize so people can use it with confidence for everyday transactions. Scalability is another issue. The current Bitcoin network can only handle a limited number of transactions at a time, which could become a bottleneck as adoption grows. Then there's regulation. Governments around the world are trying to figure out how to handle cryptocurrencies. Some see Bitcoin as a threat to their control over money, while others are cautiously embracing it. The balance between innovation and regulation will play a huge role in Bitcoin's future. But even with these challenges, the momentum is undeniable. More businesses are accepting Bitcoin, more investors are treating it as a legitimate asset, and more people are realizing its potential to reshape the world. If history teaches us anything, it's that money is always evolving. Gold gave way to paper money, and paper money gave way to digital systems controlled by banks and governments. Bitcoin could be the next step, a digital, decentralized, and universal form of money that puts power back in the hands of the people. We're still in the early days, and the story of Bitcoin is far from over. Will it replace the dollar entirely? Maybe. Or maybe it will simply coexist alongside traditional currencies, offering people more choices and freedom in how they save and spend their money. One thing is certain. Bitcoin has sparked a global conversation about what money should be. And whether you're a skeptic or a believer, it's hard to deny that the way we think about money will never be the same again.
All right. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most people. But now you have a choice to make. You can subscribe right now, stay ahead of the game, and position yourself to capitalize on the greatest financial shift of our time. Or you can ignore this, let others get rich while you stay exactly where you are, and spend years regretting that you didn't take action when you had the chance. 5 years from now, you'll either be thanking yourself for hitting that subscribe button today, or kicking yourself for missing out. The decision is yours, but wealth doesn't wait for anyone. The people who win, they take action. See you at the top.